Welcome back to another exciting, action-packed, fun-filled, informational episode of the Investor Guys podcast. I am Kevin Mills. This is Bill Barnett. Just a quick reminder, you can find all of our 206 right now, 206 episodes at investorguyspodcast.com. That's investorguyspodcast.com. While you're there, check out our social medias. I'm getting a lot more involved in posting for social media. It's going to just be updates on what's going on in the real estate world, that kind of thing. Keep an eye out for it. Add those to your feeds, your Instagram, your Twitter, your Facebook, and I don't know that we're going to be doing any LinkedIn. We'll put a LinkedIn account up, but I'm not sure we'll be doing any TikTok videos or anything like that. So unless Bill wants to do TikTok videos, you want to do some TikTok videos from the beach chair?
Make all my buddies in China and see. Yeah.
You don't want to see you having fun on the beach. Stick it to them. Say, yo, Chi. Anyway, start following us on our social media. We're going to start getting a lot more content out. We're also going to get a lot more links and things that you guys can be looking at on our website. There's already some there. Start visiting more often so that you guys can find just more information that's going to help you out, help you be a better investor, including links to Bill's upcoming book and my book that are both coming out. I haven't put those up yet, but I'm going to. And Bill, I know you're working on getting Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich back up on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles. Let me know when you get that done so we can get those links out to everybody as well. Bill has been making those available. His Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich? He's been making those available to all of you who ask for it, simply by asking for it. But we're going to make it easier. That way, anybody who just goes to the website and said, you having to email something out, Bill, they're going to be able to click on that link and go directly to Amazon and pick it up, or directly to Barnes and Nobles and pick it up, and be much easier for everybody. Today, let's finish our topic from what we started the last show, and we were talking about our favorite strategies for right now because the market is in flux. In fact, we named last episode "Opportunity is Banging on the Door." And if Bill and I have said it once, we've said it probably every single show that we've done. The time for opportunity, the best time to be looking for opportunities in real estate is when the market is in flux, whether it is going up or going down. The best opportunities are when the market is in flux. And you'd have to be living under a rock, under a bridge, under another rock to not see that our economy and investing and real estate investing is in flux. And the good news is, and the bad news, unfortunately, is we are just headed into this flux. Okay, this has just been within the last year or so that we are headed into this. This means for the good portion of this is we still have lots of time to take advantage of these opportunities. We need to start, if we haven't already, start structuring our minds, start structuring the way we're going to do strategies to be able to take advantage of this market. And we also need to realize that unfortunately, this is just starting and it's going to go for a while and it's going to be hard on a lot of people. And we need to be compassionate. We are in a position to where we can do good things for people. Okay. Don't do that to the detriment of your own financial health. Don't do that to the detriment of your family's financial health. Don't do that to your physical, detriment to where you're getting into, a confrontation or a situation with somebody. But make these opportunities work for the people so that you can help them out at the same time. And we have so many opportunities to do that. We had talked about Bill's favorite strategies, and they're pretty much lockstep. I have a slightly different way of doing it, but it's essentially the same thing. One of the best ways right now to take advantage of the situation is subject to, and we covered subject to briefly. We'll do a whole boot camp sometime on subject to and different ways to structure it and everything else. I structure mine through trust. Bill does his through LLCs in different ways. It doesn't matter. We get to the same end result. Real quick, in this first segment. Bill, why don't you go ahead and lead us into our next segments, and I'll tell you guys about what I've done in the past and what I'm going to be doing again as we head back into this. Now, when I say the past, it wasn't that long ago. It was 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010. In fact, I picked up homes that I still have. I picked up homes that I lived in back in that period of time that have more than doubled and even tripled in value now, just because that's what real estate does. Bill, go ahead.
Well, you just then said something I don't think we've talked about much at all. Subject to is a fabulous way to pick up your own residence. Yeah, in this business, you're going to find property, the house that I just moved out of, the house that I'm in, all these are all investment properties. I built a house in 92, 93, and so that becomes an investment. But then when I sold that house, the next property, that the reason that I moved and sold that house was I found another house in the same neighborhood that I picked up sub two. They were behind, they were going to lose it. At the time, it was the largest house in the neighborhood. I liked it, didn't have a pool, that kind of bugged me, but everything else I loved about it. And I said, I'll throw a pool in it. And picked that property up sub two, stayed in it for about 3.5 years, and so it became my personal residence. I looked at it as an investment first, and then when my wife went down and looked at it, she said we should sell our house and move into this one. And I'm like, okay. And it literally was 6 houses down the street, but it was almost 1,000 foot bigger. And so she liked that extra square footage. It was a corner lot as opposed to an interior lot. So the yard was bigger, blah, 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 blah. And we jumped into that property. As we were about 3 years into that property, maybe 3.5, she was pregnant with my youngest son and out walking. And she said, hey, there's a property over it. We live in a decent sized, not huge, but a decent sized neighborhood, but the back side of it backs up to the Trinity River. And the city of Fort Worth came in and they call it the Trinity Trail. It's a walking, biking, hiking trail that goes from downtown Fort Worth over to Benbrook, basically, which is 11, 12 miles. And this house backed up to the trail. So it backed up to the North Fork of the Trinity River. From the back property line to the river was about 40, maybe 50 yards. And she was out walking the trail, and she's like, oh my gosh, that house, the backyard looks terrible. So she came back and went back around and found out, sure enough, it was for sale. We called on it. It had been for sale for a while. It isn't a part of the neighborhood. You have to go there. You're not going to just swing by and see it. You have to be going to that street. It's the very back of the neighborhood. And so we bought that house. So we bought it solely as an investment and have any intentions. It was about the same size as the one we were in, but I went in and reclaimed an additional 375 feet, which made it the largest house in the subdivision, and put it at 5590 or something like that. And it had a pool. It just fit for our needs. My Pierce, my baby, who's 17 now, she was pregnant with him, and we're like, okay, let's buy this one, and we'll do it. I told her, I said, I'll let you do this one exactly how you want to do it, not the way that I would do it to flip it. Quality wise, same material, design wise, a little different. And so she did that. And we had it from the time we started the rehab, we gutted it and had it completely finished in 6 weeks, which for 5,500 plus feet is not bad, especially a complete gut. All the floors went out, everything. We didn't take it down to the studs. We did take it down to the walls, but we did not go down to the studs because it wasn't that old. It was built Yeah, it was built in 92. It was built the same time that I built my original house in that neighborhood, or in the neighborhood. And so all of these properties, when you're out looking at deals and you're searching subject to, you're going to run across deals that you go, man, I'd love this for my house. And subject to is perfect for that. So when we're out looking at deals, and so you and I are looking at deals for sub two, what we're looking for is I'm usually looking at the pre foreclosure list, people that are behind that are looking to do something to one, save their credit. Typically, they're not looking to save their house. Nobody's figured out a way to successfully do that yet, to buy it and let them stay in it. They get screwed every time. Nobody's in 60, 70 years of recorded investment strategies the way we know them, certainly since the early 80s, nobody's figured out a way to do that yet. So we jumped in, picked this property up, sold the one that we had, moved into this one. And, that's the way you do that thing. And so sub two is a great way. Now this last one was a straight cash purchase, but the one before that was sub two. The one before that was new construction. So you have all these different ways, but when you're looking for a personal resident, sub two is a fabulous way to do that. One, there's no mortgage qualifying. You are servicing an existing debt. Two, it may not take as much down payment money as it would going in and buying a property normally. It may take more, but the convenience of not having to jump through that hoop is tremendous, and you're likely to get a significantly better deal on a property that you're picking up sub two, and that down payment money is mostly catching it up so it's not foreclosed on, and making sure that the people that have the property have something that you keep foreclosure from coming on their credit report, and then they start getting some cash. I just noticed we are way over. Sorry about
We'll take
that.
a break while I wrap my head around the fact that early 80s was 40 years ago. So we'll be back in a minute.
Thank you for watching the Investor Guys podcast.
Live the resort lifestyle every day with Cayman K. The perfect pieces for every wardrobe. Shop the entire Cayman K collection and find your favorites. Find all our styles at CaymanK.com.
Absolution X, limited editions, lifestyle apparel like none other. Get yours today at absolutionx.com.
Thank you for watching the Investor Guys podcast.
The Investor Guys podcast will be back shortly.
We are back. I got to tell you, Bill, when you're going through that river story, I've lived in Florida now for 3.5 years. I thought there was an alligator coming up or something. So
No, we've been fortunate. Haven't had to mess with any alligator stories. Oh,
no. I love the subject too. And like I said, we actually, a couple of properties that we lived in ourselves, and very similar story. The first one was one in the neighborhood that we had, and we were just out looking to see what was out there for investment properties. And we saw one. We liked the floor plan. It was a slightly bigger house, not a whole lot, but we loved the floor plan. Had a great view of the golf course. It was right above the country club clubhouse and everything else. Got that on a subject too. The owners had moved out of the property. They'd bought another house. They had planned on renting it. They did rent it for about a year, maybe a year or two. The tenants moved out. They were looking for tenants, but they weren't paying the mortgage. They hadn't paid the mortgage while the tenants were in the property. So they were behind. I don't know what their strategy was as far as wanting to put more tenants in there and have them face foreclosure. But when we found all that information out, and that's something else to consider too. If you are renting in this market right now, okay, and you're renting a house from somebody, make sure that the note is being paid, because if that house is foreclosed upon in 3 months or 4 months, you're moving all your stuff out. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get those notices. The owner will get those notices. So you'll have a sheriff's deputy or a marshal knocking on the door of your rented unit. And in some states, you have different rights as a tenant. Okay. But in most states, they're going to say, hey, I'm sorry, this house was foreclosed upon. You've got a day, 24 hours, maybe a couple of days to get your stuff out and turn this over to the new owner. So make sure if you're renting a home in this market that you're paying attention to that as well. But great house. We ended up living in it ourselves. We bought another one that we ended up moving from that house to in 2010. And we bought that directly from the bank. Eventually, I mean, we did a subject to and literally turned right back around. Bought it from the bank at a, this was back when they were still doing mortgage modifications. So we modified the existing mortgage, bought it from the bank for the existing mortgage. That house, we purchased it for, I'll tell you, it's $699,000 is what we bought that house for. Okay. That house right now, and I check the market on it all the time. I own that still with my ex-wife. Okay. Right now it is $2.7 million for that house. That is a $2 million profit that I have to split with my ex-wife in the course of the last 12 years. You know, that's not bad at all.
Yeah.
And I love subject to, just like Bill. My strategies are slightly different. Now we're talking about those two properties we just talked about were in California where we were living. Okay. We have properties that we picked up in Texas where Bill is, and Bill's neighborhoods, in fact. Okay. We have properties in Las Vegas. We have properties in Phoenix. We have properties in Boca Raton, right here where we live now. Different markets all across the country that I was able to get simply by running ads in Craigslist. Now, Craigslist has changed. That's not the go-to anymore. I am working on ads that I'm going to be putting up in Facebook. They simply say, are you facing foreclosure? Are you in foreclosure? Are you looking for a solution that will not show up on your credit? Are you looking for a solution that will give you a fresh start? However you want to word it, get that information out in front of people, as many people as you want. Now, on Craigslist, as you can on Facebook, you can custom tailor these to markets where you want to be. I wanted to invest in Florida, so I ran ads in South Florida. I was close to both Las Vegas and Phoenix, so I ran ads on Craigslist in Las Vegas and in Phoenix. I'm very familiar with the area, the I-35 corridor where Bill is in Dallas-Fort Worth. In fact, Bill and I, before we became good friends, we used to bump into each other all the time. I'd give him a call. Hey, I'm right around the corner if you want to grab lunch. Spent a lot of time. I have a lot of investments already in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So I also ran ads in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, the San Antonio area, and the Austin area. And we have properties there still. These are people who literally sent me an email or picked up the phone and gave me a call and said, hey, tell me more about your program. Hey, tell me more about what you can do. Tell me more about the qualifications. What's the hook? Everybody thinks there's a hook. Okay. Make sure you say no hook, no money out of your pocket, whatever it is that you want, that you think is going to work. And here's the thing, Facebook ads are cheap. Craigslist ads back then, most markets were free. Okay. Run multiple different ads, run multiple different wordings, find out what works for you. Run one set of ads on Facebook and see what kind of response you get. If it's not the response you want, tweak it. Get some different language in there. Okay. Talk to some other people. What would make you respond to this ad? Think about it yourself. What would make you as a person, as a facing these situations, respond to this ad yourself to say, hey, I'm going to see what the solutions are. Now we're coming up on a break, but we'll be right back with more on that.
You are watching the Investor Guys podcast.
The Investor Guys podcast will be back shortly. Live the resort lifestyle every day with Cayman K. The perfect pieces for every wardrobe. Shop the entire Cayman K collection and find your favorites. Find all our styles at CaymanK.com.
Absolution X. Lifestyle apparel like no other. Limited editions. Unique, exclusive designs. Seek your absolution. Get yours. Only at absolutionx.com.
You are watching the Investor Guys podcast.
The Investor Guys podcast will be back shortly.
And we're back. So again, we're back at the same strategy that Bill and I have. I like people calling me. I don't want to go chasing after deals. I've done that before. Don't get me wrong. I've done it. Most investors who first started out, okay, and I laugh because I started off flipping just like everybody else. And then when I got into it, I just got hungry and I felt like I needed to go and have a buffet of options. Okay. So I tried everything. I tried tax liens and deeds, and I tried to master that. I tried, subject twos. I tried buying foreclosures. I tried everything and mastering as much as I possibly could, thinking that I was going to have this buffet of options. As it turns out, there are things on that buffet that you like better than others. Okay. And I don't have a problem with eating foreclosures. Okay. It's not my favorite form of sushi, but it'll fill me up. But I am not going to make the extra effort myself right now to go through all of what it takes to go and get that buffet foreclosure. Okay. I don't like competing with all the different people that are chasing after that particular owner because they got the same list that I got. Who are chasing after that particular auction because they know that that property is going to be up and they're going to bid more because they don't know how much the property is really worth. They think they're buying it at auction and they think no matter what they get, it's a good deal. I don't want that competition. I don't want to deal with it. I don't have the time. I would rather people say, hey, I have a deal for you and bring the deal to me. And that's not just for the subject twos. I mean, in our lives, in our real estate investing lives, there's a lot of way we can attract that type of deal flow to us. But my favorite strategy for right now for subject to is having people bring the deals to me and being able to help them out of situations. A lot of the deals that I had come to me the last time we did this were from real estate investors who didn't know what they were doing. They got in over their head. Okay. This was not the property that they lived in. So it was a different situation. They were paying the mortgage for the property they lived in. They weren't paying the mortgage for their investment property. And it doesn't matter whether it's an investment property or whether it's property you live in. If your mortgage is due and it's not paid, then the bank is going to come and get that property. It's a lot easier for them to let go of that property because they're not as personally attached to that property. They look at it as, you know what, it was a gamble. I lost money, or I broke even, whatever the situation is, but it's a lot easier for them to separate with that property. So that might be another thing that you consider when you're running your ad is investors. Are you in over your head? Try to attract properties that are going to be a little easier for you to acquire. But that is my go-to strategy. I am working on, in addition to about 1,000 other things, Facebook ads that are going to go out in the next couple of months that are going to be targeted for specific areas, because even sadly as it is, people who are facing foreclosure are still on Facebook. They're still checking their Instagram. They're still going on Twitter. They're still doing all of those things. So in order to make them a captive audience, I will be running ads on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter to get their attention so that they can be bringing deals to me. Bill.
Yes.
Any experiences with like that yourself, or?
I love the social media ads. They are inexpensive. When you start looking at, and look, all you got, if you say, well, I don't really understand the advertising side of it, I want to make sure I get an ad that works. Well, then simply go look at a bunch of different things, and you're going to see some things that you go, wow, that you may actually click on because you're interested. I'd really pay attention to that ad. And then also you're going to see some things that you go, if I had a distressed property that I'm trying to get rid of, and this might be an ad that I would respond to, and make note of that. Take screen captures of them and look at it and say, all right, how do I change that so that I'm not just going out and blatantly copying, but you can copy the style, location of pictures, and most people way overwrite those things. It's very simple. You want people to be able to read it very quickly and fully understand what you're doing. I've got a way to be able to take this property off of your hands if you're behind it all, if you're facing foreclosure, if you need to sell quickly because you got a job transfer or you're getting a divorce, whatever. We just picked up a Vegas property on a sub-2 because the couple was getting divorced. They had it for sale and they were fighting so much. And what they were left fighting over was the house. She didn't like the way it was being marketed because he had handled that. He didn't like what she was proposing to do to get it. And I stumbled on it, and they were like, I said, look, here's what I'll do. I don't care if either one of you take credit. I don't care if both of you take credit. I don't care if nobody takes credit. Here's what I can do. I can give you $60,000 in cash and start making your payments and giving you an extra $200 a month. Obviously, you guys can split that if you want. And that's how we ended up. So there's 3 checks that go out, and I say checks, it's all electronic, but I still call it checks. 3 checks that go out each month. Mortgage payment, which I pay directly to the mortgage company, never give it to the seller, never give it to the seller. Goes to the mortgage company, and then she gets $100 and he gets $100.
And no matter what, a deal is about making something work for both sides, any kind of deal. Nobody's going to do a deal if it doesn't work for them. And the sad thing is you're going to run into, if you haven't already as a real estate investor, find people who will walk away from a deal that they will spite their face, to get even with their nose. There are people who will walk away and face, foreclosure, face bankruptcy, face whatever else it is because they feel like the deal didn't work for them. Unfortunately, the deal would have kept them out of, say, bankruptcy or out of a foreclosure, whatever else. In that period of time back in 2007, 2008, I had a mortgage company and all of the rules were changing at the time. Licenses were changing, everything else, but we were doing more mortgage modifications. So on my SUVs, on my truck, on the back window, I had big giant wrap that said, facing foreclosure, save your home, which would have been a mortgage modification, or save your credit. And then it had the phone number and it had the website, right? It's plain and simple. And I can't tell you, even just driving around California, how many phone calls we got from that. And we picked up properties. I don't have the other properties anymore in California because I'm just not a big fan of being an investor in California anymore. But we got a lot of phone calls that we were able to do mortgage modifications for at the time. And we got a lot of phone calls that ended up being properties that we acquired and quickly flipped to somebody else. And here's one quick note, and we're running out of time, okay? A subject to, if you do it right, can be assigned to somebody else.
Sure.
So keep that in mind. You're not stuck with this property. You can assign the subject to somebody else. And again, it's a whole nother topic for a whole nother probably boot camp weekend. Okay. But we are up on our time and we will see you on the next episode of the Investor Guys podcast. Now, if you enjoy watching us, send us emails, bill@theinvestorguyspodcast.com or at investorguyspodcast.com, kevin@investorguyspodcast.com, contact@investorguyspodcast.com, and we'll see you guys back here next time. Happy investing.
Thanks, everybody.